wake up. Yeah.
I wake up,
Flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up. I wake up,
flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up.
9
out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me. I'm number one up on that court, I'm Nick McGrady. The first one in, the last one out, can't call me lazy. Put in my hours, send the invoice and they pay me. I need 6 rings like MJ and Tom Brady. I wake up,
flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up. I wake up,
flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up.
Y'all gon' make me take that trip way out to Europe. I call up Nigeria, come through in a hurry. Those London boys don't come to play, you should get worried. One false move, find yourself there getting buried. Dance with the devil, used to love playing those games. Made some bad decisions that brought my mama pain. I made a promise to her, swore that I would change. I'm on the come up, bet I live up to my name.
I wake up,
flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up. I wake up,
flex,
thumb down now,
check,
no drip this,
wet,
tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no
rest,
might crash, might
wreck,
but first I
stretch,
tell 'em run it up.
I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up. Only buying car to get tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. No fault, I done doubled up on the workload. I think I fell in love with the bankroll. Pray up, get money, then we lay low. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what. Told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the D, D's no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's rose. Got no pay, yo, no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, that new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, that new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa.
All right. Yeah. Good evening. This is my first attempt at going impromptu. This is not the AK on Fire podcast show. Tonight I'll be talking about Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams and the issue she's having with black male voters down in Georgia. So Stacey Abrams has been having a little bit of an issue with black male voters down there in Georgia. She in 2018, her approval rating, or the percentage of people who her percentage of support was 98%. 94%, and as of 2022, that support has fallen down by 16% to 78%. But before we begin on tonight's topic, I want to begin by discussing leadership and submission. And if you stay with me, I'll show you how that all ties in together. So if you've watched the show, if you are familiar with the show, I've spoke quite a bit about submission with some of the sisters that have been on the show, and a lot of sisters tended to have issue with the word submission to the point where you could say they were almost triggered by it. And so I wanted to follow up in a separate group, like one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, and wanted to further understand, like, what is the problem with submission? And so after a series of exchanges, my takeaway was that it's not that a lot of sisters don't have a problem with submission. They just believe that, submission requires trust, and trust has to be earned. And so this is where I want to tie this into tonight's topic, because it's very difficult for some of the women to trust a man who doesn't trust himself and who is unwilling to lead. And that's the focus of tonight's show. So if men want women to trust them and submit to them, they're going to have to lead. And for the black community to be successful, black men are going to have to take the charge and lead. I know that leadership is hard. Sometimes you have to make the hard decisions, but that's something that we're going to have to make. And so this is the psychological barrier that a lot of us brothers go through, because we want to make the hard decisions, but at the same time, a lot of men are concerned that the position that they take, or the decision that they would make, would cause women to be upset or outraged. And so what we do is we have this go along to get along mentality. And when it comes to politics, that go along, get along mentality has not served us very well. Black men want to be liked by black women by any means necessary. We'll do whatever, even if it means voting in a way that's contrary to our own political interests. Black women have controlled the politics in our communities for nearly 4 decades. 40 years, since pretty much since the 70s. And we all see how that has turned out, has been an unmitigated disaster. Ultimately, unlike most leaders where the leader will say, hey, the buck stops with me, a lot of sisters haven't done that. They've said that, hey, black men are responsible because black men are abandoning their children. Black men are not leading. And for some brothers are saying, well, hey, you want to be independent. You don't want to submit to our leadership. So there's been a complete lack of respect or contempt for black men. And that lack of respect and contempt has made its way into our politics. When you have a presidential candidate who can get up and go on one of the largest urban media platforms and suggest to black people that if you don't vote for him, then you are black. Well, that to me that's like the epitome of a lack of respect and a lack of regard. And in my opinion, when that was done, that wasn't aimed at black women. I feel like that was aimed more so towards black men. And this goes to the lack of regard and lack of respect that I mentioned earlier. I think that was more so for black men who were either contemplating staying home or not voting. So, one of the things we have to look at. One of the things we have to look at is the fact that, black men haven't really, for voting the way we've been voting over the last 40 years, black men haven't really received any tangible benefits, anything tangible for decades for our loyalty and our votes. And so it's only natural to question, like, why the hell would I keep voting for these people if I'm not getting anything in return? Again, I'm trying to set up something I'm trying to set it up so you can see the issue and the dilemma that's going on in Georgia with Stacey Abrams, because I don't believe that black men have an issue with Stacey Abrams. I believe that black men have an issue with the Democratic Party, and not because we feel that Republicans are better, but it's more so the fact that for a lot of black men, a lot of us feel like Democrats never hold up their end of the bargain, right? I mean, you make a promise for a vote, then the promise should be kept. And what happens is you end up breaching trust when you don't fulfill your end of the agreement. Oftentimes, it feels like black men will get out, we'll canvass, we'll go vote, we'll show our support, and either that support is not recognized. Say, for example, in the state of Alabama, when Doug Jones was running against the incumbent Republican governor down there, and Alabama is a pretty conservative state, and Doug Jones pulled off the victory. And when he won, he acknowledged black women. He said, "Thank you, black women." It started off like a media campaign across the country. Everybody was talking about the political muscle and the political might of black women. But when you look at the numbers, you have to ask yourself, like, well, wait a minute. Are black women the only ones that supported you? Doug Jones won the vote largely by black people, not just black women. Black women voted for Doug Jones at a rate of 96%. Black men voted for Doug Jones at a rate of 93%. So it was only a difference of 3%. And yet Doug Jones and the Democratic Party writ large failed to acknowledge, that black men went out there and canvassed. Black men went out there and voted. And this is just one example. I mean, there are many other examples of how, the contribution and the voting of black male are largely overlooked. There's also the fact that when black men give our votes, Democrats tend to pivot away from issues that we care about and tend to focus maybe on the LGBT community or the trans community, and God bless them. This is not a knock against them, but you came to us, you promised us certain things if we delivered on the vote, and once you got the vote, you pivoted and turned towards other communities. Same thing can be said for the undocumented immigrants that come across the border. And God bless them. I mean, I know it's tough. You want to come, you want to provide for your family, you want your children to have a better life. There's no knock on them. But every country has laws and a border for a reason. And when you ask black men for our vote, and then once you get in office, you say, thank you very much. And then you turn to pivot to focus on undocumented immigrants who didn't have the right to vote. It's an insult. Not only is an insult, you have a lot of black men and women who are low skill workers now voting for you to now focus on making them legal, who are basically going to end up being their competition. So low skill black workers are now voting for you to make their life difficult because the wages are going to be lower. Because the more labor that you add to the supply, it brings down wages. And then when companies hire these once undocumented immigrants, they'll say, well, we're hiring them because these are the jobs that nobody wants. Is it the job that nobody wants, or is it the job that no one can afford? No one who's here legally can afford. That's the question. Let me see who we have in here before I continue. Okay. All right. I see you, Los. See you, Natasha. See you, Rico. So let me go on, because I wasn't planning for this to be long. This was just going to be like a little 10 minute, 15 minute spiel, maybe longer. I have to begin to do these a lot more, because for the past several months I've just been moderating discussions, and now it's time for me to step out front. Again, black men haven't received anything. 40 years. There's nothing we can point to and say that you know what? For all of our support and loyalty, we got this, we got that. Nothing. There's nothing we can point to. And you know the saying about loyalty. When loyalty goes one way, it's not loyalty, it's stupidity. And we have to ask ourselves, at least as black men, have we been stupid? How has it benefited us to continue doing the same thing over and over again? If we vote, if we give you our vote, and then you turn around and you focus on undocumented immigrants, you focus on LGBTQ rights, and again, there's no knock to any of them. And then when it comes to us, you say, well, Republicans are not letting us do it. Republicans are not letting us get to those issues. Why is it only issues that affect black people that Republicans are preventing you from doing it? Is it really that Republicans are preventing you from doing it? Or is it just a convenient excuse because you know that we're gullible enough to buy that? So Republicans don't have any issue with the LGBT stuff. They don't have any issue with the women's right. They don't have any issue with the immigrants, only when it comes to helping black people, specifically black males. I find that interesting. So another interesting thing is that when we look at our politics, it does not appear that the interest of black men and the interest of black women are in alignment. It doesn't. I think we recognize that when Ice Cube went on Fox Soul and he was speaking with the sisters, and he had that plan that he wanted to I forgot, I think it's called the Platinum Plan was the name of it. And he wanted to he wanted to sit down with both President Trump at the time and candidate Biden to discuss the Platinum Plan. Then presidential candidate Biden said, "Hey, we'll talk to you after the elections. Let's kick the can down the road." At the time, President Trump said, "Hey, sure, we'll sit down, we'll talk to you." And Ice Cube got a lot of flack for that. Now, keep in mind, we tell Crips and Bloods and all these other gangbangers, everybody that's trying to kill each other, hey man, you sit down and you talk with your enemies. We tell the Palestinians and the Israelis, sit down and talk to your enemies. But when you're black, you're not, especially as a black man, you're not allowed to sit down and talk with the Republican president, or you're not even allowed to entertain the possibility of even voting anything other than for a Democrat. I saw someone posted online, I can't remember where it came from, and they asked the question, they said, well, are black people genetically predisposed to only voting for Democrats? And that's a good question. Often a lot of people say, well, you don't want to vote for Republicans because they're racist. That didn't stop us from supporting Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson's probably been in the last 70, 80 years was probably the most racist, openly racist president. But working with an openly racist president, you were able to get the Civil Rights Act passed. You were able to get the Voting Rights Act passed. You don't just talk to people who agree with you. Let me see who we got in the chat. Okay, yeah, I see you, Sweet Jones. Peace, Ma'at. Yes, I'm beginning to do a few monologues, just trying to step out in front and get used to doing this and not just being behind the panel. We're still going to do the panels, but I'm going to do a little bit more of these impromptu monologues. So again, I'm saying that black women are out here advocating for black women. Hats off to them. But they're not exactly advocating for black people as a whole. And if you recall, when Ice Cube was on Fox Soul with Vivica A. Fox and I forget the other ones, they said, well, what do you have in there for black women? And Ice Cube said, what do you mean? This is for black people. No, they said, no, what do you have specifically for black women? So in their minds, doing something for black people as a whole was not good enough. They wanted something solely for black women. Now, I find that interesting because when President Obama pushed for the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and it was something that was going to help a lot of young black boys, because young black boys are failing. Young black boys are failing. Failing young boys are becoming failing young men who become failing older men. You have matriculation rates of like 65% women to 35% men. Why? Because by 8th grade, I think there was a study that was done where by 8th grade, only 10% of young black boys were proficient at reading. If you have 8th graders reading at a 4th grade level, and they're in 8th grade, and they're passing these kids on to high school, let's be honest, these kids are not ready for college. And we put so much pressure on these kids to go to college, and they end up taking student loans, and they're not ready for college at all. They do one semester, 1 year, and next thing you know, they have $15,000, $20,000 in debt for student loans. We're setting these kids up for failure. Failure. You know, so again, back to the Stacey Abrams dilemma with black men. No, again, I'll keep repeating. I don't feel like black men have a problem with Stacey Abrams. I feel like the Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment, has a problem with black men. You know, when I was younger, my mother always told me, she said, you know, Abe, you always call people. Just go through your phone book, whatever. Just always call people. Don't wait till you need something before you give them a call. She said, you never know who needs to hear your voice. Somebody may be going through something. She said, you never know who you're going to be in a position to help or who might be in a position to help you. But just call. You don't want to be that person that when they pick up the phone and they see your number, they say, oh, what does he want? And that's what it feels like for a lot of us when we don't hear or we don't see Democratic candidates. And then when it's election time, they're at our churches, in our neighborhoods. It's like picking up the phone and saying that, yep, they want something. Because that's the only time you see them. The only time you see them is when they need our votes. And then after that, they're gone. And I don't say this to disparage any political party, because I'm not loyal to any political party. To me, when it comes to politics, it's quid pro quo. What can you provide me? That's all I'm interested in. What can you provide my community? Don't hit me with any of that civil rights stuff, because the moment you start talking about civil rights, yes, pandering with exactly. That's exactly it, Ma'at. They're pandering with celebrities. Matter of fact, let me put that up real quick. See if I can pull that up. Yeah. Pandering with celebrities. Because that's exactly what Stacey Abrams did. She had what was it? A discussion, like a town hall meeting, and she had 21 Savage there. 21 Savage and Charlemagne the God. Now, what the hell is? I mean, you just name dropping at that. I mean, 21 Savage. He's not even a U.S. citizen. He's from England. I mean, he grew up here, but I mean, he's not even a U.S. I don't even know if he's become a U.S. citizen. I doubt it. I think he has a jail record. So, yeah. So, Sorry, let me pull this up. Pull that up. Yeah. That's exactly what they're doing. Pandering with celebrities. So part of our issue, part of the issue that Stacey Abrams may be feeling is that a lot of brothers are sick and tired of being sick and tired. No other demographic group has struggled as long and persistently as black men. In America, blacks are incarcerated 6 times the rate as whites. 6 times. A lot of those tough on crime, no, what does it call it? No leniency. The term escapes me. Happens in cities that have a Democratic mayor, Democratic police chief, Democratic district attorney, and oftentimes a different Democratic attorney general, state attorney general. So you can't put that on another political party. The NAACP predicts that with this generation alone, 1 in 3 black men will spend some time locked up. That's 33%. So out of every 10 brothers, almost 3.5 of them would have done some time in the Bay. When it comes to school, black boys are more likely than any other group to be placed in special education classes. 80%. 80% of special education is black and Hispanic children, boys, but primarily black boys. I know I had something similar happen with my youngest, where they tried to do the same thing, which we eventually ended up homeschooling him. They say that black boys have a behavioral problem. Say that you have a problem with authority figures in the classroom. My son came home, the youngest son that I was telling you about that they also tried to have him put in special education, or tried to get us to put him in special education. He came home one day and he was like, "Dad, I know what I want to be when I grow up." And I was like, oh yeah? What do you want to be? He said, "I want to be a white woman." So naturally, my heart started racing. My throat got tight, dry. It felt like I was swallowing rocks. That was not the conversation I was prepared to have with my son. So I felt like this was a Dwayne Wade situation. For those of you who know. Those of you who don't, just Google it. That was not the kind of conversation I was prepared to have with my 5-year-old son. So I asked him, I said, "Why is it? Why do you want to be a white woman when you grow up?" He said, "Because there's a bunch of them in school and they have all the power." When he said that, I was a little relieved because I thought it was something else. And I had to explain about why there's so many of them as teachers. But it was hard to explain, because when you sit back and you look at the statistics, I believe this is from the National Center of Education Statistics. Women make up 75% of teachers. White people make up 80% of teachers. White women are the overwhelming majority of teachers, public school teachers, K through 12 in the U.S. And we wonder why our boys are basically being routed into special education. We wonder why, black males make up 70% of all school suspensions. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Think about all these people who are calling cops. What do they call them? Karens. Calling the police on black men. Some of these women, very same women, are teachers in your kids' classroom. These are the people who generally vote Democratic. They support the teachers union. They supported Obama, and they'll wear the Black Lives Matter T-shirts. They'll tell you that they're your ally until you live in their neighborhood or your son is a student in their classroom. This is what we're facing. And little black girls, they get it, but they don't get it to the extent that little black boys get it. Who will advocate for the little black boy? Black women have amassed, an incredible amount of influence in the party. But how are black women leveraging that influence to impact in a positive way their sons? How is it that black boys are reading at a 4th grade level, but black girls are doing just fine when they're growing up in the same household? That's an interesting question. So it's this frustration. It's this frustration that causes a lot of black men to become jaded with the Democratic Party, because it's starting to feel like a bunch of empty promises over and over again. Look at this. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, 79% of public school teachers are white, 9% Hispanic, 7% black, 2% Asian, 76% female, 24% male. There aren't many black men in the teaching profession or that stay in the teaching profession. I want to ask if, let's say, for example, teachers were, 80% of the teachers were black, 76% were male. And girls in the 8th grade were reading below a 4th grade level. Do you think they would keep the status quo in place, or do you think there would be a complete overhaul of our education system? Yeah, so black boys are more likely to go to school that lack proper resources, don't have the resources to educate them. It's stated that students with majority black schools with majority black student populations have fewer certified teachers. This is according to the Department of Education, that schools with at least 50% of a black student body only have 48% of their teachers that are fully certified. That's unacceptable. And yet, this is the situation that we find ourselves stuck in. Most of these cities, they fight tooth and nail against having charter schools because they don't want competition. Because even though charter is a hybrid of public-private partnership, the teachers can't be unionized. And that's the real opposition to charter schools. The opposition to, what was it? I believe it's like school choice, where even though 70% of black parents want school choice, teachers unions and the Democratic Party is against it. Well, if the teachers union is against it, of course the Democratic Party is going to be against it, because the teachers union is the largest financial contributor to the Democratic Party. So yeah, they're going to be against it. And school choice would allow people, hey, if the teachers are not fully certified at my son's school, if the teachers are racist at my school, I can just take my voucher and take my kid to another school. Because the way it stands now, you have three options. You can stay at that school where your son or your daughter won't be doing well. Well, actually, you have another option. You can homeschool. That's if you can afford the homeschool, because somebody has to stay home. You can move, which will cost you money. Or you can send them to private school, which again will cost you money. So if you're black and you're poor, you don't have many options. Because for most, private school is not an option unless your kid plays basketball or football and can get on some type of scholarship. That's not an option, especially if you live up here in the DC area. Because I mean, private schools are $20,000, $30,000 a year. They cost about as much as sending your kid to a private university. No, fortunate for us in DC, you don't have to be stuck at one school. I mean, you can apply for any school. You have the school that you're zoned for, but you can apply to go to any one of the schools. And if there's an opening, then you can get accepted into it. Again, I mentioned that black boys are not reading at an adequate level. This is a travesty. I mean, what's being done to remedy that situation? You have black students that make up 18%. Even black students that are in pre-K make up 18% of the public school population, but yet they represent 50% of all suspensions. In pre-K, we're suspending kids in pre-K. And black boys make up 70% of overall suspensions. So it's no wonder that with black boys going through all this in elementary school and junior high school and high school, and they're not reading at an adequate level, it's no wonder why they don't want to go to college. There's no wonder why the matriculation rate is 65% women, 35% men. You have to ask yourself, okay, we've been complaining about this for a while. What's being done to remedy this, to rectify this situation? Is this by design? So just a little bit more before I go in, because I do want to look at some videos, and I'll post a link if anybody wants to come up. Matter of fact, let me do that now. See if I can post the link. Post the link. 1 second. Ooh. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna post this link, and for those who want to come up, can come up. Okay, and I just have to try to pin this. So, okay, and then so I've pinned that. If you want to come up, just let me know, and please let me know, because I have multiple computers. Let me know in the chat to check the back channel. So let me see if I can pull up this video. I definitely want to. Let's start with this one first. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay. Pull this up. This one is from Fox News.
There's another close race to watch, that rematch in Georgia between incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp and Democrat Stacey Abrams. Recent polls show Kemp with a 3-point advantage. That's within the margin of error. And Abrams says she needs overwhelming support, particularly from black male voters, to close the gap. So let's bring in Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor. He recently interviewed Abrams, and Brian Robinson, former spokesman for former Georgia Governor Nathan Deal. Okay, Richard, you had a chance to talk to her yesterday, and this was about her need to attract more black male votes. Just first of all, the Fox News survey on Abrams, black voters supporting Stacey Abrams in 2018 was 94%. Now it's 78%. She told you this: we need a candidate for governor in Georgia who is intentional about saying that black men count, and that we need their engagement in order to win an election. The issue is vote share. When black men vote, they disproportionately vote for me. The issue has been engaging black men to vote their full power. What else did you learn yesterday?
Listen, it was a very wide-ranging interview. And listen, I think the minority leader acknowledged.
So, so what you say is when black men vote, they overwhelmingly vote for me. So there's this assumption that they're going to get like 93, 94%. And it may not be that the numbers that they'll get is that high, because I believe last time when Trump ran, he got like 18 or 20% of the black male vote. But again, there's this built-in assumption that you don't have to work as hard for the black vote, that you're automatically entitled to it. And I think Stacey Abrams is seeing that isn't the case. The fact that they're just now starting this now in September and October, when the election is next month, shows you it's that example that I was saying with my mother. Is like, you know, you don't just come when you need something, right? Let me give you another analogy that most of us as black people we know, right? It's like it's like that uncle that comes around and say, hey man, you know, let me hold $25, let me hold $50, and I promise you when I get back on my feet, I got you. And you give him the $50. And then your uncle gets back on your feet and he'll pay everybody else. But man, he's always ducking you and always has an excuse for why he doesn't have your money. And then when he needs money again, he doesn't go to all those other folks. He comes directly to you. Again, that's what this situation is like. You come to us, you ask us for things, and then after that, we never see you again. And so what is happening is that, you know, black men are simply getting tired of it. Has nothing to do with Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams is our sister. We, you know, she may be a feminist and we may have our issues, but she's still our sister. She's still family. But it's not about her. It's about the machine that's behind her. The machine that says, you know what, black men are expendable. Tell them whatever they need to hear. You know, pat them on the head after we get their votes. We'll see you again in 4 years.
That she's behind in the polls. She points to incumbency as part of the problem, that, you know, Brian Kemp does have incumbency. Also points to the fact that she's not looking at the polls, Dana. She's actually trying to build a new electorate. She acknowledges that there's a long way to go, but she's creating the largest voter outreach campaign ever, and she's really trying to recreate the Biden coalition. And it's worth pointing out that in 2020, her nonprofit Fair Fight was part of the building blocks and the cornerstone of the Biden coalition in Georgia. And her plan is to try to rebuild that and to try to make it stronger than ever to hopefully get her over the hump in a potential defense against Brian Kemp in this election.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you can already see, I mean, they're not doing it here, but in other media outlets, they're already setting up black men to be the fall guy or the scapegoat if Stacey Abrams loses. If Stacey loses, we're set up to be the scapegoats. And that's why I thought it was important, because I'm not hearing a lot of people out there saying, hey, you know what? Why do we have to vote the way black women want us to vote? This is what I was talking about when I was talking about leadership. Leadership is about standing up for what's right, even if it's unpopular. Leadership is about making decisions that, you know, can cause you favor. In this case, you know, cause us favor with black women. They'll tell us that we're sellouts, that we're race traitors, but black men have to do what's best for black men and for all of us. And doing the same thing that we've been doing for the last 40 or 50 years ain't it. You give us the same speech every election cycle. It's civil rights. It's funny how when there's no elections, we hear nothing about civil rights. We don't hear the We Shall Overcome songs other than when it's Martin Luther King's birthday. But sure enough, every year, when it's time for election, you're going to hear a drum beat about all kinds of things, race. They understand how to push our emotional buttons. See, I learned some time ago not to get worked up about politics. It's just like WWE wrestling. Most of it is fake. These people don't hate each other. You got Republicans and Democrats married to each other's godfathers and godmothers, in-laws. But they want us to get worked up to hate the other side because it works to their benefit. I told you, I don't wear team jerseys. I am loyal to no political affiliation. Whoever got something for me, then we can talk. That's business. See, for most of us as black men, I mean, we play games, but we have to learn how to play the game. You want to know why the Democratic Party is so enamored and so afraid of upsetting Latinos? Because they know Latinos will vote for Republicans. They have and they will. George Bush he got 44% of the Hispanic vote. And a lot of people like to dismiss it as, oh, it's just Cubans. I'm sorry, there are not that many Cubans in Florida. They're not at a 44% clip. No. Because he didn't just win Hispanics in Florida. He won them in Texas. He won them in Arizona, New Mexico. I'm speaking of George Bush.
She also pointed to a laundry list of different issues that she plans on attacking the governor on, one of them being that since for the past 8 years in the state of Georgia, there's been 14 hospital closures. 6 of them have happened under the tenure of Brian Kemp, but she points that as part of the reason why there's a lot of dismal health stats in the state of Georgia.
Okay, so then, Brian, let me go to you, because she might have a formidable outreach campaign. And that is true, but one of the things that Governor Kemp said last week is that a lot of that support is not coming from within Georgia. And if you want to win statewide, you have to win in the state.
Yeah, so I find that interesting, because she's getting a lot of money, but she's getting a lot of outside money. You know, and I don't want to disparage, and I shouldn't even say that, but you know, you have a lot of brothers who are questioning some of these folks, right? I'm not even going to say it, but we've been duped into thinking that people had our best interest, and then they were all in favor of another community. I'll just leave it at that. I won't go too deep into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and beyond that.
Yeah. So let me because I really want to get to 2 other videos before I get to the video with Tiffany Cross. I want to, let me see. I want to show you an ad that they were playing down there in Georgia. They've done this actually a few election cycles, and this is what they think of black men. Black men are just reduced to like some type of you know, like sexual perverted beasts, and they use that in politics. And you have the same people who are, you know, part of the machine, who criticize rappers for using half-naked women in their videos, and then to turn around and do this is astonishing. Take a look.
Get your booty to the pole, 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 get your booty to the pole. Yeah.
Did we get your attention? Good.
So, you're really not gonna vote?
You know it's more than just the president on the ballot, right? Check it.
A district attorney decides who to prosecute,
Including whether or not to go after dirty cops.
Do you know who elects the DA?
We do, but you don't want to vote.
Can't make it rain if you locked up on some bullshit.
Want trades and coding taught in our schools?
Then vote for the school boards that will prepare us for the job market.
Want to end cash bail? Well, then vote for the sheriffs and county officials that feel the same way you do.
But you talking about, oh, they gonna pick who they gonna pick, shawty.
Ferguson just elected their first black mayor.
You know how that happened?
It's clear black lives don't matter to some of our current elected officials.
If they matter to you, then don't let other people decide who's gonna run your community. Get your booty to the poll.
Get your booty to the poll.
Get your booty to the poll.
Get your vote, yeah, vote, stretch.
For information on how and where to vote, as well as resources to find out who's running where you live, go to getyourbootytothepoll.com.
Get your booty to the poll, get your booty to the poll, get your booty to the poll, get your booty.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that is I think that's pretty interesting. That's interesting that's the way they choose to target black men. That, you know, like we're these I don't want to say sexual, that the only way you could reach us is through sex. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the ad was catchy. I mean, it had some visual appeal to it, but I mean, in terms of stereotypical, because that's how they look at us. They look at black men as though we are We are aggressive, we are violent, and we are hypersexual. And for them to put out an ad like that as a recruitment to vote, I thought was kind of distasteful. But hey, what do I know? Interesting. So I have one more video. I don't see no one pulled up. So I have one more video, and then I want to show this video with Tiffany Cross, and basically how, I'll talk about it as we're going along. Let me pull this video up. Okay. So here we go. I'm trying to see if I can skip some parts.
About, the midterm elections coming up. I want to turn to Georgia, which is on everyone's minds because less than 2 months out from the midterms, and at the center of the conversation among many black men. That rarely happens, and I want to center black men today. Right now, we could be looking at a split ticket. Senator Raphael Warnock is leading in his race against Herschel Walker, but Stacey Abrams is behind Governor Kemp. Now, Abrams says if black men vote for her, she'll win. But the math ain't really math in there. And I know Roland has a lot of thoughts about that. I want to bring into the conversation Cliff Albright. He's the co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, and Terrence Woodbury.
So when you listen to this,
CEO and founding
this is where you start to, hold on, let me get over the screen. This is where they start to lay the groundwork that if she loses, it's on black men.
Walker and Warnock in a second. But just being on ground there, Cliff, what do you make of that? Like, are black men large in number enough to decide this race for Stacey Abrams? Or is this just a headline that's, more yellow journalism and sensationalism than truth?
Yeah, good morning, Tiffany. Great to be here with you.
Let me see if I can push that.
Not unique.
I didn't have.
Not unique to
Let me
black
see if I
voters.
can.
There's a gender gap amongst all voters where men are more likely to vote conservative. Now, when you look at the math here, Stacey Abrams lost in 2018 by 55,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Had black men voted for Stacey Abrams at the same rate as black women, she would have had 120,000 more votes. So there is math there. The challenge is that since 2018, Republicans have...
And see, what they said was very important, not just for Stacey Abrams, but black men don't understand the power politically that we have. It's not just in Georgia. This is in Ohio, places like Michigan, Minnesota, black men, Wisconsin. Black men are the swing vote. And when you're the swing vote, you can leverage your vote. But it's very difficult to leverage your vote if you just give it away for nothing in return. When you look at the Cubans in South Florida, they're the swing vote. They tip the balance, they tip the scale, even though they largely vote Republicans. But sometimes a good enough chunk of them break off and vote for Democrats. They're the swing vote. What do they want? They want tough sanctions on Cuba. They want you to be tough on Cuba. And our policy towards Cuba has been dictated by a very loud minority in Florida for over 40 years. They say, well, Cuba is communist. Well, China's communist. Doesn't stop us from dealing with China. Doesn't stop us from wanting to trade and do business with China. So what's really going on? But yeah, I just stopped the vote there because I wanted to show the significance of how a small group of people can tip the balance, and how once you understand that power, you can leverage that for tangible.
Have doubled down on their efforts, coordinated and expensive investments, targeting black men, targeting men of color. And in 2020, we saw Donald Trump double his margins amongst black men in Georgia, a difference of 370,000 votes. The gap between black men and black women was the difference of 370,000 votes in Georgia. And so we do have to close that gap. And while that is not unique to black men, and we see that gap amongst all men of color.
Yeah.
The difference with black
So
men
I
is
didn't
that
really
they
have
were
much time
Democratic
to
voters.
edit this.
These were Obama voters.
So let me see if I can.
Be real clear. There was a 9
Hold on.
point gap between black men and black women. Obama Romney.
I'm trying to get
People try
to.
to make this out to be about totally sexism. That's not true. There were 2 men running.
Hold
and
on,
black men. Black
she's
men
about
were
to say
not
it coming up here.
happy with Obama. They felt he should have done more because on the issue of economics, of criminal justice, and those things along those lines. And so what then happens? You go to 16, now it's a 13-point gap. You go to 20, now it expands. But here's a race people ignore, and Terrence knows this as well. Tom Tillis, the architect of voter suppression in North Carolina, was getting around 18% as well. Why? Because Democrats were ignoring that constituency. Black women also organized and mobilized to force the Democratic Party to pay more attention to them. In many cases, black men within the party have not actually done that. So what you're seeing are black men who are saying, you're not paying attention to me. You're ignoring what's happening when it comes to economics. You're ignoring me when it comes to the critical issues.
True.
And so what the Democratic Party has not done is create a specific strategy to target those individuals because it comes down to numbers.
Right.
Warnock beat Kelly Loeffler by less than 100,000 votes.
That's the
so you're the Democratic Party.
That's the key. These elections are being determined by very slim margins, and that's where we come in. Say, hey, you want our vote? You got to give us something for it. But we're just, as black men, we're just giving our power away by just doing the same thing we've been doing for the last 40 years and getting nothing in return for it.
Knowing these numbers, what did Terrence just say? You are ignoring the potential to win. You should be trying to get every vote. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out here because someone has to say it. The fundamental problem with the Democratic Party is that white strategists are controlling the money, are controlling the strategy.
Yeah.
Yes, African Americans are having input, but if you're trying to win, you better listen to black people. You better fund these initiatives. Otherwise, you're going to lose, and that gap is going to widen.
And fund candidates.
Yeah.
Fund candidates. Instead of meddling around
Here
in
it comes
Republican
right
elections trying to put one over the other because you think they're easier to beat. Fund candidates.
But also off-year strategies.
Right.
You can't come talk to black men in the middle of September.
Yeah.
The election is November.
That's what I was saying.
I called it. They should have been doing this in January after Biden got inaugurated to build up.
But they only come when they need
program,
something.
So when elections come, now you properly prep.
Yeah. And invest in black media, brother. We know that.
Black-owned
Black-owned
media, not black
media.
targeted.
Okay.
Black-owned media.
Absolutely.
Here she
Listen,
goes.
I think Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, you know, a lot of black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by black women in the media. So this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor.
The
oppressor.
oppressor.
I'm not putting black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat, but that margin of people who can be plucked away from your people and go advance policies that harm your people, I just don't understand that.
So, and herein lies the problem. She said for black men need to get in line, and you know, that's it. We take our marching orders from our women. And as long as we take marching orders from our women, they'll never respect us. They'll continue to treat us like they're our mothers and we're like, what was that Tyrese character, baby boy. Herein lies the problem. So again, I want to wrap up by just saying that that again, Stacey Abrams is our sister. We don't have a problem with Stacey Abrams, and we very well may be surprised come election night. I mean, you know, it's a month away. Things can change. Things can change within the last 2 weeks. But to the extent that she has a problem or that she may lose, if she does lose, it won't be because black men have a problem with her. It'll be because Democrats failed to keep their promises to black men. That's my time for now. That's all I got. Until next time, we out. Let me just end with, whoa. Okay. Yeah, like that.
That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face, looking like I'm from the D. These no Cartiers, pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa. I press the button and the doors go up like, whoa. That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip, neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib, neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick, neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the deal. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way, I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's rose. Got no pay, yo, no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go